Hello everybody out there in YouTube land, and welcome to DC Fans United. Today I am continuing my series of reviews by taking a look back at Countdown number 46. Countdown, known as Countdown to Final Crisis for its last 24 issues, was a comic book limited series published by DC Comics. It debuted on May 9th, 2007, and since this is a countdown, the story order for the numbering is backwards. So you start with issue 51 and count down to issue 1, which is what I have been doing. So I will provide links to the previous issues I have reviewed in the description box. So if you haven't watched those, I would highly recommend watching them first so you're up to speed on the story. Now this issue, issue 46, is written by Paul Dini and Jimmy Olsen and Justin Gray, because you gotta have 3 writers on one comic for some reason. And the pencils are by Jesus Says, who I think is a really good artist. I like his style. And the inks are by Jimmy Olsen, and the colors are by Pete Pantes. And the cover is by Ed Benez and Rod Reese. I like the cover, it's pretty cool, and it isn't fake news. This actually happens in the comic. This character, Forerunner, breaks Jason Todd, the Red Hood. She breaks his mask, his red hood. So I like that. I like when covers, when they show something significant, that it actually be in the story, that it isn't just fake news. So that's pretty awesome, and I like Ed Benez. I think he's a really great artist. A master, in fact. So starting off on the first page, where they're at the Daily Planet, and Lois and Jimmy are catching up on things, and as a consequence catching up the reader on what's going on. Now the very first thing is they mention the Amazons are attacking Washington, D.C. Amazons Attack is a 6-issue miniseries event that is taking place simultaneously with this countdown event. But I have done reviews on all 6 issues of Amazons Attack, so if you're curious about those tie-ins and how they connect to this story, feel free to check my videos list, and I will have some links to the Amazons Attack videos in the description box as well. So Jimmy is talking about how Superman and the Justice League, they're talking about Clark Kent and how he is at Washington, D.C. to cover the Amazons' invasion. So that's kind of conveniently explains why Clark Kent isn't around, and for us who know his secret identity, why Superman isn't around. And if you read the Amazons Attack issues, you see the Justice League is very active in those and not so much in these. So Jimmy, he gets a letter, and it turns out to be a tip, so he leaves, and Lois hands him his camera because silly Jimmy almost forgot his camera. So we go to the next page, and it's this really good full page splash page. I'm reading the digital copies, but I imagine in the book this was a 2-page, 2-page splash page. So it's really great. We see Mary Marvel there. She's got her Black Adam style outfit on. So this Mary Marvel is extremely powerful. She's got her Shazam powers, but she also has her set powers that she got from Black Adam. So essentially she's as strong as Black Adam and herself combined. And there's some little dialogue there, her internal monologue, and it's kind of, it's pretty good. It's pretty poetic. She's talking about the lightning and how she can feel the power of it and everything. And we get the title for the issue, which is Weapon of War. So we go to the next page, and Mary Marvel is flying around Gotham City, kind of checking it out, looking for trouble and things, and she comes upon 5 pregnant women who, and warning, I should have had a little warning sooner than this, but warning, there's going to be some pretty graphic stuff coming up. So if you don't like that kind of thing, I guess stop watching and check out one of my reviews on the Flintstones. So anyways, Mary Marvel sees these 5 pregnant women sitting in a pentagram, and they're doing some kind of ritual, some kind of evil magic, and there's an explosion, and all of a sudden the women are destroyed, and there's this really horrible demon thing, and his body is made up of dead babies. I'm not joking. So I don't know if this villain's just here for shock value or what, but the first time I read this, I was just like, are you serious? So there's this demon here made up of dead babies, and that's his MO, as he eats babies. I mean, Doesn't get much more evil than that. So he and Mary Marvel kind of have a little back and forth conversation, and he basically threatens her in a very crude way. So we go to the next page and we catch up a little bit with the rogues. So Piper and the Trickster and Heatwave and Mirror Master are there at the table and they're hanging out, and as usual Heatwave and Piper get into an argument and they have a little fight here, which goes for a page or two, and then Captain Cold, who is essentially the leader of the rogues, shows up and freezes their bodies with his ice gun, and it's just like, you two idiots need to knock it off. Inertia shows up too, and he makes fun of them a little bit, so it's just kind of a fun, lighthearted scene. And then we pick back up with Jimmy Olsen. He has arrived at the place his tip sent him to. So he's at Suicide Slum, and that's also where the new Catwoman lady is hanging out. So when Jimmy goes up to the open door, as it just says it's a vacant building, and she says, "Hey Red, you probably don't want to go in there." He says, "You're right, I don't," but he does anyways. So he goes inside and a voice says, "Olsen?" And he says, "Hello? Who's there?" And the voice says, "Second door, 3 doors down." So Jimmy goes to that room and he says, "God, it stinks in here. It smells." And then the guy here, this alien guy, is named Sleaze. So he is actually kind of an old school character, and he was one of Darkseid's flunkies, essentially. But he's a real creep too, as you can imagine from his name being Sleaze. So Sleaze says he's the former servant, aide, and counsel to Darkseid, now a doomed refugee on this deplorable mudball planet you called home. Have you missed me, Olsen? And Olsen says, "Definitely not." And he says, "I thought Toyman killed you," but Sleaze says no, he hasn't, and that he has some information on who's behind everything and what's going on. So right when he's about to do the big reveal, he says, "Oh no, he's here." And Olsen says, "Who's here? Darkseid?" And Sleaze says, Run away, do it now." And then the top of the building explodes or collapses, and outside the Catwoman sees the rubble's about to fall and hit this homeless guy, so she jumps and knocks him down and does a heroic rescue. So then we see on the next page this voice that says, "Hello, Sleaze." And Sleaze says, "No, please leave me." And the voice says, "So begins the end." And Sleaze gets killed. I looked it up. This is the end of Sleaze. This is the last issue he's in. So he dies in this issue. And then Jimmy is just left standing there like, what the hell? What's going on here? Trying to figure out what is happening, because he's just getting more questions than answers at this point. So Mary Marvel's fighting the dead baby demon, and she's picking up cars and hitting him with cars, and that's pretty effective. He gets really mad and grabs her and is gonna try and kill her, but then she does her Shazam power lightning bolt thing, and it blasts him and fries him, and he falls down to the ground. And the police surround him, and the one cop says, "Hey, wasn't that Mary Marvel?" And the detective says, "Who cares? I want 50 feet of titanium between us and that thing ASAP." So we go to the next page and it changes scenes once again, and Donna Troy is sitting here on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, and in one of the issues of Amazon's Attack, the Amazon Queen Hippolyta went up to the Lincoln Memorial and cut his head off, so that's why his beheaded statue is there. And Jason Todd shows up and he starts talking to her again about how they're in danger because the monitors are looking for them, and that goes for a couple pages, and then we see the monitors themselves, and they are like, oh, they're watching the whole situation, so they've decided they underestimated Jason Todd, so they send their ultimate weapon to go and get him. And the weapon is called the Forerunner. So that is basically she's part of a race that they created specifically to do their bidding. So then on the next page we see Jason Todd and Donna Troy are walking, and then wham! Donna Troy gets hit and goes flying probably 50 or 100 feet and lands in a heap on the ground. She just got hit instantly. Now on the next page, Jason Todd takes it even worse. He gets hit in the back of the head, the stomach, the face, the head again, and then his mask breaks in half. And he says, "Who are you?" And we see Forerunner there, full splash page, and she looks pretty cool, and she says, "Humans are such fragile creatures." So Forerunner, this is her first appearance. This issue, Countdown number 46, is the first appearance of Forerunner, and she's very strong and I think pretty cool. I mean, you saw how she took down the Red Hood and freaking Donna Troy like It was no problem. So we'll pick up with her again in the next issue, but that's the end of this story. And then we get chapter 4 of the history of the multiverse at the end. So far we've had 3 before that, and that goes for 4 pages. It gives you more information and backstory through the monitors talking. Basically, it's the monitors discussing the history of the multiverse, and so it's a really great way to get filled in a little bit on the backstory and catch up on stories you may not have read. And I think it's really neat. It shows a lot of the different characters, and it's really well drawn. It is written by Dan Jurgens. So that's all for now. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. The channel's been growing a lot in the past week or so that's really cool. I want to say just a special shout out to all our new members. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate it. Feel free to share these videos, invite people to this channel, comment if you have an idea of something you'd want me to review, feel free to comment on it. If you've read this series, feel free to comment. Any feedback is really helpful. Even if it's something you don't like, maybe let me know in the comments and I can improve it or change it. Alright, that's all for now. Thanks for watching, and as always, if you aren't subscribed, please subscribe.
End of line.